What's up, guys? Sully Cortez, thanks for joining me. If you don't know who I am, or this is your first time seeing me, I do post on YouTube as well. Other than Facebook, this is my first live Facebook video. So, who am I? Basically, I'm a director and a director of photography based in Connecticut. I've done everything from working on big budget Hollywood feature films as a production assistant and other various jobs. You could find my list on IMDB. And by day, I am a construction photographer, essentially, document embedding photographer. I go to construction sites and I take photos of them during the progression stage when they're being built. And by night, I'm a content creator, and I create for YouTube and now Facebook. So thanks for joining me. Today we're going to give the top 5 reasons why you should go mirrorless over other styles of cameras such as DSLR, video cameras, and smartphones. So let's get right into it. Thanks for joining me if you're live. If not, we'll see you on the replay. So, reason number 1. Much better autofocus performance and live view and an EVF. Now, what does that mean? An EVF is an electronic viewfinder, and it allows you to see your image immediately. In other words, when you use an old school DSLR, digital single lens reflex camera, when you put your eye up to the viewfinder, you're actually not seeing what the lens is seeing. You're seeing what the mirror and prism is allowing you to see, which is what's happening in front of the camera, but it doesn't tell you your exposure. And that's probably the biggest letdown of an optical viewfinder. A negative of the optical viewfinder is not being able to immediately see the image that you're taking. That is a huge benefit for mirrorless cameras, is seeing immediately what you are going to be taking a photo of. Now, DSLRs, they use 2 distinct types of autofocus, and that is contrast-based detection autofocus and phase detect autofocus. Now, when you're using the optical viewfinder, you're actually using phase detection. But the moment you switch over to live view, if you want to look at the back of the camera, well, my GH4 is over there, but if you want to look at the back of the camera, you're using you're using contrast-based detection, and in DSLRs, it's miserable. But that is where mirrorless excels. It doesn't matter if you're using the viewfinder, it doesn't matter if you're looking at the back of the camera. Using mirrorless for video or for live view is much better than DSLRs, and the autofocus during that is incredibly better than DSLRs for the most part, although I will say Canon's dual pixel autofocus in video and in live view is quite unmatched. Sony comes close. I do shoot Sony. I shoot Panasonic as well, and I have used Nikon, Canon, and all the other systems. I haven't really played with Fuji yet, but I'd really like to get my hands on Fuji. You guys let me know in the comments if whatever cameras you use, and if you've used Fuji and or Panasonic or Canon. I'd love to know. So let's get on with it. The next reason why you should go mirrorless over every other camera is lenses. Now, this is a huge thing for me personally, because I don't like to have cameras that you're married to a lens. I like to be able to swap lenses. Now, with mirrorless cameras, the flange distance, which is the distance from the sensor or the focal plane, the sensor or technically where the film plane was, that distance from where the lens actually projects the image is very short on mirrorless cameras. So you can adapt almost any lens out there, from PL lenses, which are professional lenses, to B4 lenses, which are video lenses, M mount, C mount, D mount, G mount, F mount, FD mount. It's almost limitless how many lenses you can actually, attach to either a Micro Four Thirds camera or Sony E-mount camera. And Fuji has their own adapters now, so they've kind of come up, and they also are adaptable, which is great. You can also adapt, like, for instance, old Russian anamorphic lenses. I don't have one out, but I do have a couple anamorphic lenses that I shoot with, and I use those on the Micro Four Thirds cameras because they have a 4x3 sensor. Unlike the Sony cameras that have a 16:9 sensor, which, if you're using 2 times anamorphic, it really compresses the image down to, I think, 3.5 or something like that to 1 versus 2.39 or 2.4 to 1, which to me is much more pleasing to look at. You're not looking at such a squeezed image. Now, I also want to say that with Micro Four Thirds, currently, right now, there's over, I think, 85 compatible lenses. The big thing about DSLRs is that DSLRs have a huge library of lenses. Canon and Nikon both have an extensive library of lenses. However, the entire overall mirrorless world is now starting to grow in terms of native lenses, and there really is a lot out there. So we're not really starving for lenses, which is great. Sorry, if I keep looking down, I'm actually just looking down at my notes because I just want to make sure that I'm hitting every point, so you guys know why I think you should be using mirrorless cameras over video cameras or DSLRs or even smartphones. Let's talk about smartphones for a second. Smartphones are great. They're innovative. They're amazing. They have, easy apps that you can use to take your memories, your photos, and your video. However, they're extremely limited. When you buy apps, you're locked into that system. So, for example, if you buy an app on Apple, you can't use that app on Android. You buy an app on Android Marketplace, you can't use that on Apple phones. So you're kind of locked into that specific operating system. Now, that in itself kind of sucks because in the future, I'm sure it's going to happen because it happens with everything, we'll eventually abandon that, and that'll be a waste of money just like a lot of other things. But those apps don't allow you a lot of function when you're shooting with a smartphone. Some apps do, and some apps can produce great results. But again, with a smartphone, you're dealing with such a tiny sensor. It's extremely hard to get any sort. You can forget about shallow depth of field. You can really forget about low light, although there are a couple smartphones out there that have been doing a lot better in terms of low light. And while it is convenient because, the best camera is the camera that you have with you, I disagree and agree with that. Smartphones don't give you the best image quality. They're highly compressed. Even the ones that take RAW, the RAW is good, but again, you're limited to the parts inside of the device. And if the parts inside of the device are not, really good, then the quality that you're going to get is subpar, and you're not going to really be happy with it. Yes, for things like Instagram, smartphones are fine. For social media, smartphones are fine. For the majority of everyday use, smartphones are fine. But if you really want to step your game up in terms of quality, then you're going to have to go up from smartphones. Smartphones are getting there. And now, that's the thing. I think in the next 10 years, if photo camera manufacturers and camera manufacturers in general don't start implementing things like apps inside their cameras or much easier ways to adjust settings in the camera and play with the camera, as far as the next generation who has been brought up with touch devices and things like smartphones and tablets, I don't know. I see smartphones taking over and eventually getting bigger sensors and eventually knocking cameras completely out of the park. Just because, let's face it, if you could have DSLR quality in a smartphone and it gave you all the functions that you could do with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or a video camera, then why would you use anything else? If you could get the job done with the smartphone, why would you use anything else, And that's also relates to cost too, because you're saving a lot of money doing that as well. So let's move on. Number 3, saves time shooting. This again goes back to the EVF. You can see what you're shooting. The biggest thing over DSLRs and other cameras is that you can see what you're shooting. in terms of exposure. So that eliminates a lot of post-processing work, and you can just get your pictures done faster. And let's move on to number 4. Low profile, lightweight, and easy to hold. This is, for a lot of people, the number one reason why they switch to mirrorless, is because the lenses are lighter, the camera bodies are lighter, the whole package overall is lighter. Now, when you start adapting lenses, yes, you do lose that lightweight advantage, but it depends on what lenses you're adapting. Some lenses adapting, it really doesn't add a lot of weight, so it's fine. Other lenses, yeah, it does defeat the purpose. I will leave it up to you guys whether you decide to adapt or use native lenses. Again, let me know in the comments if you use adapted glass or if you use native glass, which one you prefer. But yeah, I think that is a huge thing. Smaller, lighter is great, but in terms of video, well, now it's a double-edged sword, because when it comes to video, you're dealing with moving subjects. So you really gotta watch, things like rolling shutter and jitteriness. Nowadays, cameras are coming out with in-body stabilization as well as lens stabilization. Things like the Panasonic GH5 are having dual stabilization using lens and body. The Metabones Mark IV for Sony systems also does that. I don't know how well it does it, but it does it. With the A6500, it uses both the in-body and, if your lens that's adapted has optical stabilization, then it uses it as well. Also, for native lenses, Sony does that as well. It uses optical stabilization in the lens and in the body conjoined, which is, fantastic. So the 5th reason, and the final reason, quality in terms of video and price versus performance. Now, it can be misconstrued that switching to mirrorless is cheaper. For the most part, that is true. But when you're talking about professional grade quality, I'm going to just shout out some cameras that I think are professional grade quality. You can disagree with me, that's fine. The Sony a7R II, the Sony a7S II, the Panasonic GH4 and soon GH5, and let's see, what else? Oh, the A6500, I think, has amazing video quality, definitely professional, definitely with an external recorder at 422. You could pass that off as professional quality. For the most part, those are cheap compared to things like an FS5, an FS7, a Blackmagic Ursa, an Ursa Mini 4.6K, an Ursa Mini Pro that just got announced, or a Red, or an Airy, or anything really, really expensive. They're much cheaper overall, which allows a lot more people the ability to use them, which floods the market, which is great because, again, the camera market's kind of dying lately, and if we could get more people shooting with cameras in their hands and not keep the veil of pricing over everybody's head so they can't acquire amazing quality at a great price, then, what are we doing? I mean, having more people shooting is better than not having anybody shoot because they can't afford it. Now, Sony, I think, is one company that has lenses that are really overpriced. That's just my opinion. Some of them are great. Some of them are overpriced. Panasonic has a couple lenses that I think are overpriced, but they're great quality. Olympus definitely has overpriced lenses. I personally don't shoot with Olympus. I never have. I never will. But I do love Panasonic. I do love Sony. And as far as their glass is concerned, compared to DSLR glass, I do own some DSLR glass. I own some Sigma DSLR glass. I own some Canon DSLR glass. And as far as the optics go, what's great about mirrorless is that you can have better software in the camera. So you have things like chromatic aberration correction and you have distortion correction where DSLRs don't really have that. I think maybe a couple high-end new ones do, but in terms of the broad spectrum of everybody having a camera, I don't think they do. I'm 99% sure only mirrorless cameras have that. But that in itself is, a blessing, because that saves you time. It gets your photos out there quicker. You don't have to sit behind the computer for hours and hours editing every little tiny detail, because you got it right in the camera because you could see while you were in the moment. To me, that is way more valuable than any other reason. Getting the shot when you're there in the moment. If you can't get the shot, then what the hell are you doing? Why do you even have the camera? You're not using it so to its full potential, and you're not using your skills to their full potential. So, you really got to try to make sure that whatever camera you use, it's the camera that works for you, and that you get out there and you get the shot that you want. Whether that's mirrorless or DSLR or video camera or whatever, yes, I do believe you need the right camera for the job, but in terms of everyday use and even some professional use, to me, mirrorless has way more advantages than DSLR, traditional video cameras, and smartphones. So let me know what you guys think. Put it in the comments. If you're watching the replay and you're not catching this live, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you like mirrorless? Do you not like mirrorless? Do you use DSLR? Do you use video cameras? Do you use smartphones? I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Thanks for checking out my video on the top 5 reasons of why you should use mirrorless over other cameras. You can check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/SullyCortez. I'm on Instagram and Twitter @SullyCortez, and I'm here on Facebook as well. So I look forward to talking to you all. Like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for catching it live. Thanks for watching the replay. Catch you guys in the next video.